a world where aliens exist, what happens when the fate of the world is dependent on one man? The movie opens with a comet going over the Earth. It then cuts to Burma, and we find Jake running from something that is trying to kill him. We follow Jake as he runs through the forest, but before he can make it out, he is hit with two of the throwing stars and he falls into the lake. Later, he is found floating on the lake by a wife and husband fishermen. They bring him to their home and stitch him up. The wife then drives the mostly unconscious Jake to an American military site, thinking he might be one of them. But no one recognizes him. An army man Tex is told to translate, but he also doesn't speak the local language properly. The woman tells them this is because of the comet and explains once every 6 years a comet passes Earth, which opens a hole inside the temple. Then in Filian they call the Warrior of Death comes through the hole. The military then carry in Jake and he wakes up hours later in the medic room. Myra asks him who he is and for whom he is working for, but Jake doesn't recall anything. She also asks him about his weird tattoo, but he also couldn't answer that. He is then taken to an interrogation room where she further asks him about his name, but he tells her he doesn't remember anything. Myra is worried he might be a mole hired by a foreign government to spy on them, but again, Jake has no idea what she is talking about. She then gives him a Geiger counter that she found with him, and he immediately recognizes that. He then asks her where's his other stuff, but when she answers what stuff, he tells her he can't remember exactly. With no information gained, Myra goes back to her office and talks with her colleagues. They find out Jake has acquired a massive head trauma that is blocking his memory, so she wants to take the investigation slower. But one of her co-workers doesn't listen and tries to grab Jake by himself, which doesn't go so well for him as Jake is a very good martial artist and beats him up. Other guards also rush in to stop him, but he also manages to beat them up. He is finally stopped by Myra, who injects him with a sleeping med. He again wakes up tied up to his chair. She asks him about the temples and reveals that there is a high level of plutonium there, which is the more surprising to her that he didn't die of the radiation. She then keeps asking him who he is working for. He then finally responds and tells her she doesn't stand a chance at the thing that's coming. Jay can't still clearly explain what's going on, but Myra believes him, so she takes him on the walk outside so the clear air might help him recover his memory. But as they are doing that, another person named Kung breaks into the army camp and beats up the soldiers there. He then reaches Jack and asks him to come with him. The two then beat up everyone as they make their escape and reach a grass field where they are greeted by another group of people. A woman named Carmen immediately runs to Jake and hugs him, but Jake doesn't also remember her. The group tells Jake his name and tell him he is with them, but before they can explain more, something attacks them from a distance. The group then disperses, but they are blocked by the army. Fight breaks out between the two groups, and again Jake's group starts winning, but out of nowhere a blue light jumps on Jake, knocking him down. Myra and her team then manages to capture him and get out of the fight. They bring him back to the interrogation room, and Myra asks him about the group. He tells her he doesn't know anything, but that they knew him. He then tells her to leave the area. Myra takes his advice and takes him and her team, and they start moving through the forest. Myra's Geiger counter starts going crazy, revealing high levels of radiation, but Jake tells her it's not the radiation she is thinking about and tells her men not to move forward, but they don't listen and they are all killed by the blue light. Jake and Myra manage to run away, but one of the military members who also had a hidden to-do like Jake stays there, and this is when we finally meet the alien Brax. He scans the guy's T2, which indicates he is a fighter. The two get into a massive fight, and the guy uses a machine gun to gun down and take down Brax, but after a few seconds Brax recovers and burns the guy's neck with his arm. Brax then chases Myra and Jake and manages to take out Myra with his throwing starts, but Jake escapes by falling through a hole. Jake finds himself in a cave home of Wiley, who tells him Jake is going to be him if Jake doesn't get his act together. Jake figures Wiley knows him, but he still doesn't remember him. But then out of nowhere, Wiley attacks Jake and they get into a fight. While fighting, they talk, and Wiley tells Jake the spaceman wanted him here. He then reveals Brax is the one that gave them jujitsu, a fighting method the group uses. He also tells him Brax likes fair fights, and if Jake doesn't give him that, he will kill him in the worst way. The two are then interrupted by the rest of the group, and they take Jake to the temple. There he learns Brax is an alien who comes out of the temple doors when the comet passes Earth every 6 years. Brax also loves to fight, so he taught people how to fight him, and every 6 years warriors are chosen to fight him. And if they fight him bravely, he goes back to his planet, but if they refuse to fight, he stays on Earth and kills everyone he finds. Jake is one of the 9 warriors selected, and he used to be the leader of the group, but now he doesn't remember anyone. Either way, the group shoot him up and give him his weapon. They also give him a jacket which covers his tattoo so Brax won't attack him before the time comes. They explain to him the comet will move on after tonight, so they will have to fight Brax before then and satisfy his condition. They tell Jake he has been preparing for this fight his whole life, and as long as he dies fighting bravely, no innocent people will have to die. Jake had a plan, so they start going to the place, but they see Brax following them, scanning for the tattoos. One of the warriors named Forbes then stops and reveals his tattoo and tells Jake to go as he distracts Brax. Brax then arrives to fight Forbes and they get into a sword fight. Forbes is a good fighter and manages to get good hits onto Brax, but Brax's super healing is too much for him and he gets cut badly. Two more people then join the fight to help Forbes, but he manages to kill them easily and finish off Forbes too. Jake, while going through the forest, is ambushed and knocked out by the army guy too. When he wakes up, the guy reveals to him he is also a warrior like him. He then reveals to him that if Brax is badly hurt, it takes him 5 seconds to recover, which Jake can use to his advantage and finally win. Jake then meets up with Wiley, who tells him Brax likes him in spite of what Jake did. We are then taken to a flashback of the night Brax came out of the portal. Jake and his team were waiting to fight him, but as soon as Brax arrives, Jake gets scared and runs away. When he sees how strong Brax is, he was then chased by Brax and he fell into the lake after getting hit by the throwing stars. The flashback ends and Wiley reveals he was also scared to fight him 6 years ago, but his strategy was to beg for his life, which convinced Brax Wiley was just crazy and spared his life. Brax likes to fight honorably and won't attack people he finds unfit, but he hates cowards who run away, which is what Jake did, and now multiple innocent people are dead. After hearing this, Jake vows to defeat Brax and stop the killings. He then gathers up with the rest of the group as they get ready for the last stand. 3 people, including Carmen, stand on the front of the temple to stop Brax, and he starts fighting them, all of them at once. He then kills 2 of them easily, but when he moves on to the front, he is stopped by Kyung. The 2 get into an epic martial art fight, but Brax manages to beat him up. Jake joins the fight for a little while too, but as Kyung gets beaten, he runs away to the temple. Brax then turns his eye to the injured Kyung and Cameron, but before he can kill them, Wiley grabs his old sword and jumps in front of him. Brax, impressed with his bravery, gives him a fair fight. They both bow to each other, then start sword fighting. Wiley then manages to stab Brax, but it doesn't do enough damage and he is taken down. Brax then gives him his sword back to continue the fight, but then manages to kill him easily. Wiley finally dies bravely and gives enough time to Jake to get into the temple and also save the other teammates. The group have a short memorial for Wiley, and Cameron reveals to Jake that Wiley was actually his father, and for the first time this triggers a memory for Jake and he remembers training with Wiley. Jake and Cameron then kiss, but they are interrupted by Tex and the fisherman. The wife stitches up Cameron, but suddenly Brax arrives at the temple and attacks the group. The wife then manages to shut him down for a few seconds by shooting him with a shotgun, and they all run into the main room where the portal is. There, Jake waits to make his final fight, and the 2 finally get into an epic sword fight. We see Jake with all his talent, but he is still not a match for Brax, who has super speed, super strength, and super healing. Nonetheless, Jake keeps fighting, and he gets more motivation and strength from remembering his father. He starts fighting back more and even beating Brax, and he also accidentally discovers Brax is scared of fire as fire blocks off his vision. Using this to his advantage, Jake goes around the torches and gets a good kick in. But this is still not enough to hurt Brax, and the portal is opening again, so Jake grabs a sword and stabs Brax. Cameron then shoots an arrow into Brax's body, which creates an opening in his body. Tex then throws grenades to Jake, which he sticks Brax's wound and then kicks him into the portal as it closes. A big explosion is created, which blows up Brax as it is thrown into the portal, giving the victory to Jake and humanity. Everyone celebrates, and Cameron and Jake hug. The fisherman's wife then comes and tells Jake he has just ended a 2,000-year cycle. In the final scene, Tex stands in front of the portal drinking and says, "See you in 6 years."